This conference will now be recorded.
And I have given some assignment for exception. So the first question was, I actually couldn't mail you out, guys, because till yesterday I was not switching on my computer. I was completely taking rest. So this is the question I had given. So to handle the exception thrown by the code, okay. So what is the exception here? The exception here is you cannot use double star operator, which is I to the power of 2 or something. The power you cannot do for string, right? It is only for number. So that's the exception you're going to see here. So you want to handle the exception. The output is have seen mail from Ferisha, Rajita, and also Tilly, but I didn't go through it properly. But most of them I answered all the four questions. So the answer looks like this, something like this. So I have put the for and print in try because this print is going to give me error. And
Anu,
then except, mhm.
I
I'm not
cannot.
sharing, is it?
Yeah,
1 minute. Is my VS Code visible? Okay. So the question is like this. I was here. This code is going to give some exception. You have to handle it. The exception here, you all know that we cannot use double star apparent to strings, right? So, so what we are going to do, we are going to put the logic inside try, and then you are going to handle the error. Let me see and run this. Some problem with my Python. Let me close and open this. So I have put the logic inside the try and then the exception in the except. It is printing error code. Otherwise, it is going to give some error. So let's go back to the second question. So handle the exception thrown by the code. So here the error is 0 by division. So here they are asking, apart from handling error, you have to print all done at the end. So I have put that in the finally block. So it's saying can't divide by 0 and all done. Then the third question is, so here we are asking, write a function that asks an integer and prints the square of it. Use a while loop with try, except, and else block. Okay. So they're asking us to use while loop, try, except, else, and also they're asking to write a function, which is of the name called ask. So why they asking us to use while loop? They're asking us to use while loop till you receive some proper input from the user. So if there is an invalid input, you are going to ask for the input again. So this kind of while loop we have to use in most of our old program where we just get an integer, get a input and we process it. But we never address the situation. What if we have addressed few negative scenarios, but we haven't written any while loop because the loop were not introduced when we were writing those programs. Now we can go back and edit all your old programs and add while loop. So the while loop, it should ask input again and again until you get a proper input from the user. Let me uncomment this. So we know while loop we have to, it will be running until the condition is true. So if the condition is false, it is going to fail. Otherwise, until it is true, it is going to run. But as soon as I get a proper input, I have to stop the while loop, right? So that is why I have written break statement. Because in here I couldn't think of any condition to evaluate whether the input is true or right or wrong, because there are multiple wrong inputs the user might give. So instead of creating a condition here, we are having a break. So what we are going to do here, we are going to get an integer. If you couldn't convert that integer into using the keyword int, I mean you couldn't change the type of the input to int, then probably there is an error. So let's see that. Here we have to call the function. Hmm, Okay. So here it is asking input an integer. I'm going to give pound as symbol. So it is telling an error occurred, and again immediately it is asking the integer automatically. So I'm going to give E and enter. It is again asking for an integer. When I give 3, logic.
Logic and no print statement.
In the else, um, hello, Anu. We can't hear you.
Your microphone is off.
Guys, could you hear me now properly?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I was telling that, so I have given a sample error code and description. So I'm asking to exactly print like this. Use this error code. I'm telling the output should be like this. For symbol, if I use any special character, the output should be like this. For division by zero, the output should be like this. And when I give a proper integer, the output can be just the division output. So for this, I'll create a new file better. So this program can be written in multiple ways. Let's see all the ways we can write this program. So these were the sample inputs, right? I'm just giving it directly and testing my code. So first, this function is going to get to input, and then we are giving double slash because we want a single integer. We don't want 3.0 or something when we divide 3 divided by 1. And I'm telling error division error, zero division error or value error, and then error code and followed by a description. So let's see if the inbuilt description what Python gives is exactly this. Otherwise, we will copy paste this. Okay, let me run. So it is telling integer division or modulo by zero and then invalid. Okay, so whatever I have given here, that's actually Python is giving this description. If I give something else that your integer b is zero, which is not possible to divide by zero, then you can instead of giving this, you can hard code the complete error description. Okay, so we got the output. Let me show one more way to write this. I'm just the try except everything is same, the function, but the way we handle the input, right? Because here I'm directly hard coding. Now I'm going to get the input from the user and handle it. Let me remove this. And here I have to write a statement to get the input from the user, right? What I'll do. And I'm also telling that, for example, there are two types of input. One is what is a how many input you are going to pass, how many test case maybe, how many test case you are going to give. For example, three, then three times you have to uh, get the input from the user. Okay, if I'm giving four and four times I have to get the input from the user. So this is not part of assignment, but I'm just adding few additional features to the existing program. Okay, so here it look like this. For example, I'm telling that first get the number of test case, then accordingly run get the input from the user. So in the previous example, we saw get the input from user until you get a valid input, right? Now I'm going to get, there is a defined number of test case. Based on that, I'm going to get an input from the user, okay? So first, I'm going to get cases, okay? So I'm going to get the input from the user. It will tell how many test case the user is going to run. So here I can then if it is 3, 4, 5, depending on that, you're going to get the input from the user, right? This is just the number of test keys, not the direct A and B input. So the next what I'm going to do based on the for case in range cases. So I'm telling in the range of cases until for case you have to get the input x comma y. So why I'm giving x comma y here? So So for example, I'm giving enter A and B. Okay, X is equal to A and B. Okay, sorry. So when I give enter input, enter something in the input. If I'm giving three input, Then it is, you see, it is taken as a string, and later when I split the input, for example, let me save the input here into x, a and b. Let me give three input, 2 comma 3 comma 4. Then x will look like this, three inputs, right? If I wanted to split this, x dot split, it looks like a list. List will have three different element, right? So let me do one more thing. X is equal to input dot split. I'm splitting it here directly. So you know when you split, you will get three different elements, right? 2, 3, and 4. That is why here I can give x, y, and z because I know how it will look after I split. You will receive three different values. So now 2 comma 3 comma 4. So now x will have 2, sorry, x will have 2, and y will have 3, and z will have 4. So since you know how the input would look after you split it, you are giving three different variable in the assignment. So similarly, I'm giving x comma y, and then here I will give split it. So here I'm saving, here it is not x, it is a comma. I can define this outside the function. So initially we are going to get the number of test cases, and based on the test case we are going to call this input again and again, and after we split we are going to call divide. So it is asking enter the number of test cases. I'm giving, I need a space here. Okay, so it is asking enter the number of test cases, and I'll give four times I want the program to access input from the user. So let me give 2 comma 4. It is going to give 0, and then $2, it is giving me some error, and 2q, it is giving me again some error, and 3 comma 6 comma 3, it is going to give me an output, right? So only four times it asked me the input and then it stopped. So if you have such cases that initially you will be defined how many times it has to get input, and later you have to handle that many times, then you can go for loop. If they are telling that you have to get input until you meet this condition, then you can go for while loop. Okay. And so here we saw how to get the input. We just getting the input, then splitting it based on the multiple inputs. I'm just saving it into two different variables. I can do in another way also. What I can do is, let me comment this out. Here I'll just give s is equal to, so we saw when we give a, x, y, z, each variable will hold one value because we are giving three value and three variable, each going to hold one. Let me give s is equal to, so in this case s will have it, s is like a list, right? It is a list and it is having three different values. So here s look like a list. If I wanted to access as of 0, then it will give me 2, 1, it is going to give me 3, and 2, it is going to give me 4, the third element, right? So I can do in that way also. What I can do, I am getting the input here. Instead of passing A, I'm just going to pass S of 0. See, there is no error. It is processed successfully. So either I can go for the statement multiple variable or one variable, and I can access using the index. Here I don't want to convert into int in this place. I want to handle it. In that case, I can either do this, or here I can give int of, I can pass like this also. So it depends how you handle. But these three things is important. That is, when you have a condition, you should know when to use while and for loop to get the input. And if you are getting multiple inputs space separated from the user, you can use split. Either you can assign different multiple variable or one variable, and it will be in the form of list if you have one variable, and you can use the indexes of the list to access the value. Otherwise, a different variable. So this is important. Then, okay, now we are going to see one important method. So this was one of the interview question. So I was asked that given three integers a, b, and c, calculate a to the power of b, and then based on the result we get from a to the power of b, divide modulo it by c. So what I did, this is very simple, right? What I did, I'll get three input anyway, right? Define operation a comma b comma c. So initially what I did, c is equal to a, b, then c is equal to c. Okay, then let this be x. X is equal to x modulo c. Simple, right? Then print x. But they were telling that this is not that efficient. When they said this is not that efficient, we want a more efficient way to calculate this. So I had no clue because I couldn't minimize this, or I can, what I can do, I can give C here. That's all I can do. I was not aware what to do apart from this. I was clueless. But later I came to know the most efficient way to do this, because this is a frequently asked question in interview, and because this is mostly used in crypto field where they use Python. So let me show how to do in a most efficient way. So define operation. Or let me, instead of getting input, let me directly pass the value here. Okay, so the output is 0. Okay, let me give 6. So in this case, the output is 1 because 6 to the power 2 is 6 into 6, which is 36. When you divide 36 by 5, the remainder would be 1. So this is a method which I was not aware until I faced that question. So this method, what it does, the first two input, it calculates a to the power of b, then the result of this will be modulo by c. So it directly does this only for that condition. When you have this question like a to the power of b, a to the power of b, then modulo C. You have to go for this method called POW. Okay, power. Now, um, how confident you guys feel with exception using try, except, and finally block? You guys want more assignment on exception? Guys, please respond. Okay, you guys want more assignment. Okay, let me give some more assignment. Maybe end of this class, I'll send out a mail with few more questions to understand the exception. So now we will be designing a to-do list. Like in mobile, how do you have to-do list where you can add some item, save it, and later you can remove it. So the backend code, either it can be Python, Java, or any code. We will be using Python right here. And in front end to display in a very fancy way, they use JavaScript, JavaScript, HTML, CSS. Since we are not using that, we would be seeing the output only here in the terminal. But let's create a to-do list, okay? And we'll see the list in the terminal instead of seeing it in mobile app or desktop app. So you guys understood what is to-do list, right? Okay, more efficient problems in exception, is it? Tilly, you want a complex problem in exception. Is that what you're trying to say?
Kind of like another problem with the power function.
So the power is very straightforward method. It will do only this. So in case you wanted in your program, I really don't understand where else they are going to use this because this was one of the interview question they asked recently for one of my students. He came back to me telling that I have given the right answer because the question is very simple and the answer is straightforward, but still he was not qualified for this particular question. They say that they are not satisfied with the answer. They want some efficient way to handle this. Um, so that is when we came to know that we have to use this method whenever we see this question. So whenever you get, because everybody will answer in this way only, right? When this was asked. So whenever you guys have this question in your interview, you can tell that you can use this way, but we have a efficient method to do the same thing, and that is power of a comma b comma c. But apart from this, we don't have any real-time example. We don't use it often in any of the Python programs. Maybe the people who are in mathematical field or statistical field, they might use this, but I've never used this method in my application. whenever I write anything in Python. But I want to inform you guys about this.
Okay,
Mhm,
thank you.
mhm. Yeah, okay. Coming back to to-do list, guys, you understand what is to-do list I'm talking about, right? So this is an empty list. It can be a notepad, or there are some apps in both iPhone and Android where you can go and add multiple lists. Or maybe if you're going for shopping, you can add what all items we want to add, and then later you can strike maybe buy milk, get dress. So if I've done this, I can use strike so that I'll know that I have completed this list, this item in the list. So there are multiple apps available in the Play Store, App Store. So let's see how to create a to-do list from the back end. Why I'm telling back end is all these are handled at the back. But while you see the output in the screen, you're not going to see like this, like how it is showing in the terminal. It won't be showing like this, right? This output will be passed to the front end code, like the code written in JavaScript, HTML, CSS, where the main focus is on the design, how the design of the app you are seeing it, how the user interface is. It is the output then passed to the user interface. The user interface will then show in a more fancy way to you, right? But let's see how do we design it from the back end. So to have a to-do list, what are the basic functions we have to create in a to-do list? Could you guys come up with some function? What operations we do in to-do list? The basic operations, right? Yeah. Then what else you do? Hmm. Mark as complete. Okay. So what all will be there? Usually, I've seen some to-do list in the past. I used to use that where there will be a plus button, plus kind of icon at the top. When I click on that plus symbol, it will add a new entry, new row into my list. In that row, I can add something. So I'm just adding an item. Then later I can mark as complete. Then later I can mark as complete, or I can completely delete that item, right? I can remove it. And when you do it from the back end, you have to add a display, because you're not now aggregating your back end to the front end, right? We are not seeing any front end code here. So if at all you want to see, you want to display it. Um, right here in terminal, if you want to see the output of the list, that the updated list, then you have to display. So these would be the basic operation: add, remove, display, and then come out of the to-do list. You want to close that particular app, right? Let's see that. So we know that basic functions are add and remove, then display. So yeah, when you have to add, you are going to print some statement to the user telling that please enter the item you want to add to the list. Then later you're going to add it to the list, right? So let me create a main program where you have multiple option to pick one from that option, and then you can act accordingly. In if you have a user interface, if you have the front end, then you have a plus icon, which indirectly tells that you're going to add, right? It is not going to ask what is the action you want to perform, add or remove. You're not going to type add, right? It would be a tedious work for you. So there is a plus button. But here, since we see it only through back end, I have I have to print everything, right? Here we have to choose what we wanted to do. So this would be the backend program. The to-do list, a real-time to-do list will be very sophisticated. It will have multiple functions created, but we will see the basic thing, how the backend would look like. So first I'm going to give them the option add, remove, display or exit. Then they have to give me the option. So I'm going to get an input. Now what option they are going to choose. So here I'll be getting an input. I'll say that input to a variable, and later depend on the choice I'm going to call the function. So if the choice is add, then I have to call this function. It will do the necessary action needed for the to-do list to work. Okay. So now if choice equal to 1, then I have to ask them what is the task they want to enter, right? Whenever the input is given from the user, it will be in the form of string, right? So it will be, I have to give evaluate in the string only. I'll be getting an input, enter the task. Then I'll be saving that to a variable called task. And later, after getting the task, I'll be calling add function. I'll be passing task. Or otherwise, directly I can call add function. Here I can get the input and add it to the list. Anything is fine. So I'm doing in this way. So that here we are going to get the input and then call this function. Similarly, I have to build for the remaining. Else if choice equal to. So for here the choice 2 is remove. So I'm asking which task I have to remove. Then I'm removing the task. So here the user might add multiple tasks also in a single go whenever they open an app, they are not going to add one item and then close the app, right? They will be adding multiple items simultaneously. They'll be removing. If I have a to-do list, I'll go inside it. I'll add three and I might remove one. So I'll be doing both, right? Add and remove in a single go. So I'm here giving putting this inside a while loop because we are going to get input from the user continuously, right? Until they are telling that they want to exit, we are going to get the input from the user, right? But I wanted to print that this also in the while loop. Let me put that here. So initially we are displaying something and then enter the and asking for the choice, and accordingly we are calling the respective functions. When they wanted to exit, we are telling goodbye and we are breaking it. So we are coming out of it. Here we should also handle invalid option. Here the options are only 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? If they are giving 5 or any symbol, then we have to tell that it's an invalid option. Let me say this. So here I haven't written anything inside my functions, but let me test this out. Line number 9. Okay, so here there is no open and close bracket, right? So it looks like there's options and it is telling what all the options available and it is asking what is your choice. Let me give 3 and let me give 1. It is asking enter the task. Buy milk. So here it doesn't know what to do after that. That is why, because we haven't written anything inside our function. Here we are telling display. It has nothing to do inside display, so it is asking again. So the while loop is going to ask again and again until we press 4 because only in the condition 4 we have given break, right? Let me give 4, it is exiting. It is coming outside the program. Now we have to develop something. So we can create an empty list. Here I can create empty list, and later whenever the user enters something I can add into the list, and I have to remove, then I have to display everything whatever we have added. We just have to display this, print this task list, whatever is there inside the list I have to print. So these item I want you guys to complete. So I'll be giving this as an assignment today along with one more program for exception handling for try, accept, and finally. I'll be giving a little more complex one today on exception, and I want you guys to. So here you can do anything. It's not that you have to only complete this add, remove, display. Whatever you feel like you want to do with this to-do list, you can enhance and come up with more um, sophisticated solution for this to-do list. Okay? Yes, can you do this assignment? Is it okay? Please respond. Yeah, please try. If I don't think this would be hard for you guys. I don't think you can easily do this. So if you have a multiple item in the list and you want to display one after other, what should you do? So think about that and add it here. And here also you can enhance this if you wanted to add one more option and you want to do some additional check and all here inside this. If you can do this, I will now, as of now, I'll put it inside my mail. I'll add one more problem for exception. Okay, so we will see one more topic today. Maybe I'll wrap up in 10 minutes. So, initially, we have seen how to debug our Python code. For example, if a colon is missing, if a open and close bracket was missing, it is anyway going to tell you an error. When you run it, the Python is going to give you some error. Based on the error, you have to understand what the issue is and you have to fix it. These are syntax error. That is, there are some rules how to write the code in Python. If you're not following that rules, it is going to throw you an error because it cannot understand what you're trying to say. So you have to fix it. Then later we saw there are some logic errors like you cannot divide a integer by another integer, sorry, integer by a string. It is going to throw an error. You cannot divide a value by zero. So these are some logical error. So here there is no syntax issue. Based on the input, based on the logic, it might create some exception. The Python might throw some exception, right? And the exception is going to stop your program. It is not going to give any output. It is going to give few lines of error, and then it's going to abruptly terminate the program. We have seen that also. Then we saw how to handle such exception in our Python code. So if in case these kind of problem occurs, I don't want my Python code to stop abruptly. So I want to continue it, but tell the user that there is some error exception because of this input and proceed with the remaining logic available inside my Python, right? And we also saw how to raise our own exception. So if the user, if for example you are getting two input from user, but the input you are expecting is integer, you have clearly asked for integer, but the user is giving some symbol, some special characters, then you are going to raise an error, right? So you can raise your own exception. So we have seen what is logic exceptions in the syntax and some exception in the logic, right? And we have seen how to handle them. Before moving forward, I want to show one website. Okay, so in the initial stages, we have seen one guys, could you hear me? Okay, because I keep hearing that this conference is now be recorded. I don't know, something is happening with the go-to meeting. Maybe I'll ask them to create a new go-to meeting tomorrow. Because the go-to meeting is actually a paid one. Since we are using a trial version, it will be there for a few days and we have to create one more trial version. That is why they recreate a different go-to meeting and give you a different link every fortnight. So let's see, I'll ask them to create one tomorrow. So even though the Python program was having 7 lines of print statement and each line is having a different kind of error, a syntax error, you will be shown only one error at the time, right? When you fix that error, it will go to the next line because when it sees error in line number 2, it is not going to proceed and check the remaining line. So if the issue is fixed in line number 2, now it goes and checks the line number 3. If again it sees one more issue there, it is going to throw you. So Again, if in the line number 2 there are two errors, for example, close bracket is also missing and double quote is also missing, which one Python is going to throw first? It is based on this order. So initially what it does, when there is an exception, it will check whether any arithmetic error is there, like floating point or zero division. If that is there, it will be printing only zero division first. Then there is something called assertion. We will see that later in the next class. And environment error, like compatible with the different platform. End of file error. This you will see when you're working with CSV file or some file which you are writing. We have seen that we can write something into a file from Python. We can also read something from the file. If you're trying to read even after reaching the end of the line, it is going to throw this error because it has nothing. It has reached the end, so it is telling end of file error. Import error, if something you're calling some method which is not actually created in the same file, or you're importing a wrong path. While you're importing, you're going to give a path in the file name, right? The package and the module detail. If it is not right, it is going to show you input error. So this is the order it is going to follow. First, it checks if there is any buffer error, arithmetic error, assertion error, environment error. Most of the error you will not know. Zero by division and floating point and end of file, import error, lookup error, you know, right? When you're accessing a list and you're accessing fourth element which is not available in the list. It has only three elements, but you're trying to access the fourth. It is going to show index and the key error we have seen. So this is a hierarchy it is going to follow the Python. Okay, this is not that important. It's good to know. I'm just showing you. I just went to the docs python.org, Python official website. There you can go and find search for exception hierarchy. Anyway, I'll add it to the notes. Later you can get this link from the notes. So coming way what we were discussing, yeah. So we saw different types of exception and errors, how to handle it. Now the next thing is um, we have to do one more thing, that is test our code logic. For example, we were given a problem statement, and we have written a logic to handle it. They have given some input, it is working. For one input, it is working fine. For the next input, it is not working fine. Then you have to see what is the issue with that. For example, let me, so for example, this is a problem statement. Find the common element between two lists. Okay. So here I understood there are two lists given to me, and the list will have multiple elements. If the same element is appearing in both the lists, that is a common element. I have to tell them that this is a common element. For example, A is equal to 1, 2, 3, and B is equal to 3, 4, 5. I'm imagining the output should be somewhere like 3. 3 is a common element in both the lists. I have to print this. So how do now I have to think about how do I create this? What is the logic I have to follow? So imagine that I have got the input directly from the, I'm hard coding it. I'm not getting any input. Initially, let's hard code, then later we can get this input from the user. So initially I have two lists, and now um, what I can do is for x in A, for every element in A, I'm going to check if x is available in B. If, for example, initially it is going to take 1. For 1 in A, if 1 in B, it is going to check if 1 is there inside B. If so, it is, maybe we can write a print statement that x is a common element, but there might be multiple common elements, right? So what I can do, I can create a list here called common elements. Then I can add this x to that list, right? So what I can do, common element dot append. This is how you will add element into a list, right? Initially we have to define it. So I have created an empty list, then I'm appending the X. If at all I find any X, I'm going to append it. So for every X in B, A, I'm going to check if it is there inside B, right? Mm, let me save this. Let me run. Here, X, instead of giving X, I have to give this. Okay, so I'm just running this again. So it is telling 3 is a common element. Okay, now my program is working fine, right? I have given a problem statement. I have imagined how it should look like, then I have written something. For example, if the input is changing now, the input is changing to 1, 2, 2, and 1. And here it is 1, 2, 3, and 1. Okay. Here, okay, this print should not be inside if it should be outside. So it is telling 1, 2, 2, 1 are the common elements. But for example, if an interviewer is giving you this problem, he's going to say that this is wrong because 1 is common. Okay, 1 is common. I have added 1, and then 2 is common. Okay, I have added 2. But this 2 is not common because you have only 1, 2 here. We have already matched it up. Here, this is not common. You don't see another 2 here. But you have 1 again, another 1. So here you see one more 1. So he's telling this 2 shouldn't be this is not the expected output. He's telling whatever output you have given. I mean, whatever output your program is giving is not the expected output. So the expected output is 1, 2, and again 1. So now here the logic changes completely, right? I have to write few more lines to make the correction. You understand? They have given a logic. It is working for one set of input, but it is failing for another set of input. So this you have to test it out. For example, if you're writing a program, you have to test for different kinds of input. You have to see how your program is behaving, whether you are getting expected result in most of the input, almost all the input you are passing in. If you're not getting the expected output, you have to modify your program, right? So what I can do is why it is again printing 2 because it now checks whether 2 is there inside B. Yeah, 2 is there. So it is going to tell that it is a comment. But here, what I'll do, I'll create one more list, remaining elements. Here, I'll put B inside it. Okay, I'll make a copy. Here, I'm creating a new one more list. I'm creating a copy of list B because I'm copying everything from the list B and putting it here, right? My list B is intact and nothing is happening to it, but I'm creating a new list and I'm assigning everything there in the list B. So here what I'll do, when I find a common element, I also remove it from the remaining elements. So dot remove. So what happens here is when I find this common 1 and when I first element I access for X in A, I access this 1 and see if it is there in B. If it is there in B, I'm going to remove it. Correct? I'm going to remove it from the B. So if the 2 was already removed, while I was accessing this 2, the third element in A, I will not see 3 here, 2 here, right? Because it was already removed. So here I am going to remove from the remaining elements. And again, what I have to do, I have to check in the remaining elements only. I shouldn't be checking in B. Have to check in remaining elements. If it is there, I'm going to print. So here you saw this was the output, right? Let's see. Let's run this. And see here, this is the expected output. So we have to test our code. This clearly tells that as soon as you complete your program, you have to test not with just one set of input. You have to test with multiple set of inputs. I can imagine a complex of worst case input, and I have to see if my code is handling it properly. Like thinking of negative scenario, you should also think of multiple inputs, multiple different, I mean different inputs. You have to test it out. So we have a framework in Python which will help you in writing a test cases, because you cannot write almost all the test cases every time. You just have, I mean, for our example, you are a tester, and your work is only to test all the program written by the developer. In that case, you can even test by passing multiple different input. But there is one more way, is that is called automation. You can automate where you can put all your test cases against that particular problem, and you're going to run that. So what it will do is it will pass different input to the original program which was written by the developer, and it will give you an output, how many test case passed and how many test case failed. This is called automation. Testing your program using another program. You're automating it, you're not doing it manually. Maybe one time effort it is, but that way that can be used for lifelong. Whoever is working in that application may use that program, and they just have to click the button and get the output. That's all. That we will see tomorrow, what is that framework and how to write your own test cases for your problems, or how to automate the test in Python, how to automate the testing in Python. That we will see tomorrow. So yeah, I will add one more problem to this assignment, and I'll add one more exception problem, and I'll send this out. So when you get time later today or tomorrow, please complete this. Guys, we have any doubts or questions? Thank you, Fish. Guys, if you don't have any question or doubts, we can wind the session here now.